Ew, okay, so, like I said, the Batman review. Yeah, so I've actually seen it twice now. Sorry, headset's tangled. But anyways, yeah, so I've actually seen it twice now. The first time, ironically, we caught a late night showing, and by the time it finished, pretty much everyone in the theater was asleep. Long show, and then me and my friend ended up going into work 3 hours after. 3 hours of sleep, and then right back into work. So yeah, that was it was a very long movie. All in all, pros and cons, good and bad. All in all, spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet or don't want spoilers, probably shouldn't watch the review. Just giving you a heads up. Don't want to spoil it for you. Yeah, if that's your thing. Anyways, so jumping to the meat of it. All in all, great iteration. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. Very long, very long. Personally, I think it should have been kind of like a series. Would have granted more emphasis on certain characters, all in all, and a lot more building. There were downtime moments, I thought, that kind of slowed it down, which made it so long. Kind of that film-esque noir, which, I mean, it fits especially with the character of the Batman. But otherwise, I just felt like it dragged, and certain movies, all in all, roll better, and with this, it did feel to me like it dragged. Robert Pattinson's performance, I do appreciate it. All in all, I'm not a big Robert Pattinson fan, but I mean, you know, he's got some respectable work out there. Just have never really overall cared for his body of work. But like with this, it was a great role. Much like when I saw Ben Affleck's Batman, like that one, I was like, oh yeah, don't really care for Ben Affleck's performance. But then like I actually really respected him as Batman. And same thing with Robert Pattinson. It was a very different approach. Liked it. Very different Batman, especially after coming off from Christian Bale's Batman. I mean, very different persona. It's, you see the kind of I guess what you would say, homage, kind of, you know, like that growth of, this is what this guy's brought to the table, I'm going to build off of him. And it's great because it gives the next performer kind of that level where it's like, okay, this is where that guy brought it, and this is where I'm gonna jump off of. So, you know, performance-wise, as an actor myself, it's always nice to see people's iterations and their take, and you know, and then you can kind of build that and grow off of it. That being said, there's also the whole concept of the big boots to fill, and it's like, ooh, yeah. all in all, pertaining to the performance itself, though, I mean, I didn't think there was a lot of the concept of Bruce Wayne. It was just very focused on Batman and kind of geared to him, you know, trying to fill his shoes of being the vigilante. And that being said, I mean, the running joke is that Batman's supposed to be this great detective, but yet, via the plot line, the script, and everything, it's like, yeah, he's not that great of a detective, because like he's always kind of trailing behind, and I mean, literally the overall, he gets outdone by the Riddler. Like Riddler literally is way ahead of him at all points, and then that final moment in the movie itself, Riddler just kind of outdoes him. Like Riddler completely outsmarts him. The only concept of that he beats Riddler on is that Riddler doesn't really reveal who he is, because him and Riddler is kind of confounded by that one. And I mean, theoretically, if you looked at the facts and overlying picture closer, you would probably had him. But yeah, all in all, great performance. Very different, you know, going from like his biggest things were Harry Potter, where he was Cedric Diggory, and then he jumped into Twilight, and now this. And I mean, he's got other bodies of work I've been told that he's amazing in, but haven't really looked into it. I think I was recommended, I think it was called The Lighthouse. Apparently, great performance there. I've yet to see that at some point, so we'll get to that sooner or later, eventually, hopefully. But flip side, with Catwoman, Zoe Kravitz, yeah, her performance is pretty great. I mean, very different take on Catwoman from uh, Anne Hathaway, and also I've seen articles. Apparently, she did audition at that same time, but was ousted out because, well, they said she was too urban. So I mean, like, wow, words. From a performer's perspective, this is just the comeuppance, and like, it's she's finally getting her moment, and I mean, more power to her. Awesome. And like, yeah, she brings a very different kind of raw Catwoman. Her performance I found was a nice balance between kind of the really extreme Halle Berry performance and then Anne Hathaway's more cat burglar. So it was a nice in between. She kind of had both realms to work off of, and she made it her own. So I mean, nice performance there. Just like a very different take. And then you had Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Oh, like, oh my god, phenomenal. Like, first of all, you can't tell it's him. Second of all, he doesn't look like him. Third of all, like, I mean, he's this nice driving force in there where he's a constant wild card, and I mean, he's not as big as kind of the trailers portray him to be, but in the end, like, I mean, it is that concept where it establishes his character, and in this world, you kind of see where he's going to have that power grab later on, especially with the turn of events and the fall of Falcone and everything. So it's a nice iteration of like Penguin growing in the crime world, and yeah, it's just nice to see kind of like the fruition of all the games and everything, like of the iteration and the growth of Penguin, and how he's going to become kind of like a consistent force kind of operating against Batman. That being said, on to the Riddler. Paul Dano. Oh, wow, that performance. Definitely a very unique and extreme performance. Very different from Jim Carrey's. Extremely different. It was a nice kind of mindset. I mean, he's not just a bad guy. He's in his own mindset a vigilante, and he's very broken, and yet he's very twisted. He's almost a mirror of Batman himself. Like, in the event that this character was to diverge on a different route, like you have one heading towards the more heroic end, being Batman, and then you have his character where he's more deranged, and he becomes this kind of iconic mastermind villain. Like, they follow very similar concepts of the vengeance concept, and all in all, it just builds this very great performance. Just what he brings to the table is very different. Like, you see the high-tech Batman, all his gadgetries, and then you see, this guy. He's not really the muscle, he's more of the like mastermind, and he's got very crude gadgets, but like he's assembled everything himself. Household products, all the bombs and stuff that he builds, they're all household, and like you can really respect that. And even with that, the whole concept of his followers, like he's not perfect, so he's like touching base with them, and like there's that quick sequence where it shows his laptop, and like if you do a quick overview of just the commentary, it's like, thanks for the tips, like back and forth, and even in his final video he's thanking like his fan base, which kind of gives him that power, versus you have Bruce where he's got all his gadgets, and then he's also got Alfred, who's got more of that background, that mastermind. So you have the two very different ends. You have basically, it's the concept of light versus dark, basically. And DC is very dark. Like, literally, there's no lights. And they just go camera action. Memes. Anyways. But yeah, great performance. And yeah, just a very different take. Very dark. Very kind of sinister. Very crime, drama well, not drama, but crime thriller almost. Yet you have the whole superhero nuance, so that changes the feel more. But yeah, you got the grit still, and yeah, it's a very different take. Yeah, honestly, the fight sequences in there were present, but it didn't really focus as much. Like the Dark Knight series, they have a lot more combat, a lot more fight. So with this, it's more of that like mysterious aspect, which it actually really builds into the Riddler, because with the Riddler himself, well, he's not the muscle. There's always that concept of your hero has two villains. He's got the physical obstacle and then the mental obstacle. Riddler is more of the mental. The physical in this was more of kind of that end sequence, the third act with the mayor and like the whole explosions, the blowing down of the walls, the flooding of the cities, and like the unrest. Honestly, to me, plot-wise, I felt that third act was a little bit weak, kind of like after the decline of the Riddler's character, because you have this massive buildup. It's just kind of flooded out like the city. Puns. Anyways, so yeah, you're basically, your film has your three acts. It's got the establishment and the build-up of Falcone and just the whole riddles. Then the reveal of the Riddler and that whole kind of interaction, and then the third act would be the finale of the unrest, technically the fall of Gotham, the flooding, and the rise of Batman. Year 3, going into year 3. So I mean, very great take, very different take. Pros and cons in my mind. I know a lot of people are loving on it, but I mean, just mindset wise, I was like, man, could have been stronger here, could have been stronger there. I'm not bashing it. Definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, like, to me, with the physical aspect, I could have seen them incorporating a more physical villain. Like, my mindset for a stronger plot would have been something along the lines of, as all of these crimes were happening, they kind of linked it to a physical being, and in my mind, a physical being that would have balanced out the mental mind games of the Riddler would have been someone, say, like Zsasz, because Zsasz's character, he's more of that kind of like serial killer slasher, which would give him kind of like the quintessential physical being of, like, say, Bane to Talia, or say Joker in general was just all parts crazy, which was why he was the perfect villain, physical and mental. But yeah, I mean, even with the concept of Ra's al Ghul, there was more of like Scarecrow's character being that physical obstacle, and then Ra's in the end being more the mastermind behind that, but he himself was kind of a layer of physical. But yeah, that's just my mindset. All in all, a great movie. Very long movie, so definitely see it if you have the time. Otherwise, yeah, I liked it overall. On a rating scale of 1 to 5, I'd say easily 4.5. Not perfect. Things that I myself see could have been different, but not my project, not my circus. But yeah, great show. Definitely would recommend it. Very dark, very broody. Very different performance from Pattinson. I enjoyed it. Amazing performance from Zoe Kravitz and also from Paul Dano. And a very different take on Gordon. Loved it. Breaking the walls of ethnicity for casting. Because, clearly I'm not an actor myself trying to break balls. But yeah. So yeah, definitely feel free to let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie itself. Feel free to comment, subscribe, and we'll go from there. Peace out. Stay beautiful.